welcome back to Cascadia Dispatch, Prepping for Non-Preppers. I'm Casey, and on today's episode, we're going to talk about power outages. We're going to talk about what to do and what I did, what I added to our house last year that has been super effective, and the questions that I have gotten over the last week and a half as wildfire season kicks up and summer heat waves kick in and power starts to go out, and what people are asking me that hopefully will help you. So over the last, I'd say 3 to 4 days, I've had 3 or 4 different people come up to me and ask me about the generator that we have at our house and why we got it. So I figured I would share that with all of you in case you had questions or were interested as well. In general, the 3 people that came to me had 3 different use cases, all of which are reasons that we have a home generator. The first was someone who had experienced a bunch of outages during the ice storm that we had experienced over the winter when it took out a bunch of power in the Portland area and people were trying to kind of live without power for 4 or 5 days, and we know that similar things have happened in Texas. There was all kinds of issues with the power grid in Texas, so there's definitely a concern around cold weather and power. The second person asked me about it as related to the heat wave that we just had and the draw from their air conditioning and all of the different items in the neighborhood. They were having power issues and wanted to make sure that if a similar heat wave happened or as additional heat waves continue through the summer, if the grid needs to actually pare down for some reason and it can't handle it, they didn't want to lose power and then lose air conditioning and things like that. So what option did they have to eliminate that option? The third person came to me because they have parents that are elderly and have medical equipment that needs to remain on in order to sustain them, and they don't want a power outage for any reason, be it heat, wildfires, snow, ice, cyber attack, any reason to lose power and for that to be compromised. So they asked, well, what do you have and why do you have it? So the first thing I'm going to cover is the why. Why do I have a whole house home generator? And the reason I have that is there are lots and lots of issues with the power grids and power generation and power transmission and things that we've seen over the last few years. And those trends continue to just kind of get bigger and larger. And we see that every year across the country. We've seen it in Texas, we've seen it in California, and likely a lot of those issues are going to start to show up more in Oregon. We've seen it over the last year or two starting to happen in Oregon more, where the weather has affected power and we've had bigger power outages, but we haven't necessarily had the kind of rolling blackouts and brownouts that California has. As wildfire season picked up last year, we started to see that happening, and I would imagine that over the next few years we're going to see that more and more happen, and we'll see it more and more in Oregon. So I wanted to make sure that if that happens, while it may not happen in the Portland area, different areas of the grid may be affected, and I wanted to make sure that we had power at our house regardless of what was going on with the overall electrical grid. So what do we have? We have a Generac Guardian 22 kW whole house generator. It works on natural gas and it sits on the side of our house and it's connected into our main panel via a transfer switch. And so if the power goes out, which it has a couple of times, our generator will kick on immediately and power everything in our house. We actually got a slightly larger unit than maybe what we needed as the top end, but we did that to make sure that if we added anything in the future, we would have enough and we wouldn't need to buy another generator. Initially, we had purchased a small gas generator from, I think I got it from Cabela's, to just run a couple of things. It would run like a refrigerator, maybe it might run the freezer for a little while, but you need to store gasoline in order to run it and do the oil changes and all that sort of stuff. The Generac generator, you also will need to do some maintenance on, but because it runs on natural gas, you don't need to store anything. And as long as you have a working gas line, it will function and power everything. So we don't need to worry about cycling gas or anything like that. We are keeping the small generator in case of a natural disaster emergency where we lose our natural gas line. That'll let us kind of power things for a little while, but that's not going to be our main generator. It'll be the Generac generator going forward. So how much does adding something like this to your house cost? So the generator itself, if you can find them, and obviously when California starts trying to get generators, it puts a strain on the entire supply chain. So they've been a little more difficult to find lately. I have seen them starting to show up more here and there. And then obviously when Oregon went through the ice storm and there was a lot of demand here, when Texas did it. So in times when there is more demand, they're a little harder to find. I have seen them starting to pop up here and there. So I would encourage you, if it's something that you're interested in, call an electrician, figure out exactly what size you would need or how much you watch so you can start watching for that. So generators can be hard to find. I have seen them ranging in price, depending on the size, from around $4,000 to around $6,000 or $7,000, depending on obviously how big you get. Ours is a 22 kilowatt. It's kind of a middle of the road. You've got 18 kilowatt and then slightly smaller, which we ended up not going with. And then you can go 24 kilowatt, which is a little bit overkill for the size of house that we have. And you can go a little bit higher than that. But somewhere in the $4,000 to $6,000 range is probably where you're gonna find most of the generators you're gonna be looking for. Our house is about 2,800 square feet. We have 4 bedrooms and we have 3 bathrooms. So to give you an idea of kind of the electrical draw that we do have natural gas heat and natural gas hot water. So we don't have to worry about that. We do have electrical stoves and things in our kitchen. So that is a little bit of a draw. We do have a hot tub, which would be a huge electrical draw, but in an emergency situation, we would just shut that off. So that's not drawing. During the summer, we might want to run the air conditioner. We do have an electric AC that is for the whole house. During the winter, obviously that wouldn't be an issue. You can find generators at lots of different places. I got mine from Platt Electric Supply, which is a local electrical wholesaler in our area, but I have also seen them at Home Depot, at Lowe's. I've seen something similar at Costco. I don't exactly know if it was the same model, but I did see a Generac generator at Costco, so you know we love Costco. So go ahead and you can check that out. If you're concerned about the size, and I've had a couple people ask me about sizing, definitely reach out to an electrician. They will help you. You're going to need an electrician to install it anyway. So you can start that relationship early by asking them about like what size you would need. In general, you know, most of the homes kind of similar sizes. I would recommend like a 22 kilowatts. I'm not an electrician, but I would probably go a little bit larger than what you need than going a little smaller to save a couple $100 on the cost. It's going to be a lot easier for you to have a little extra electricity that you spent a couple $100 for than to not have enough and have to ratchet down what you can actually use in your house, or if you add something to your house, not be able to use it because you've capped out of that maybe 15 or 18 kilowatt range. Installation is a little spendy, so the installation, a normal installation that's kind of where the unit is going to be by your electrical panel and your gas meter, it's probably going to be around $2,000 to $3,000. It is going to be spendy, but it's not crazy. For us, ours actually had to be installed at the complete opposite corner of our house. So the length of the natural gas line and the electrical lines were much longer than what they have been at other people's houses that I know who have had similar installations. And it basically doubled the price of our installation. So if you can keep the unit close to your panel and your natural gas line, your installation is going to be significantly less than if you have to relocate it somewhere further away due to sound or setbacks or any of those sorts of things. In most areas, you are going to need an electrician and a plumber to actually do the installation because you have the electrical and you have the natural gas lines. Some electrical companies or plumbing companies may offer both, so call around and see. You may be able to get some sort of a deal if you can find somebody that does both at once. We were able to find somebody who did both at once, and so it was really easy, and they came out and they were able to do the entire installation in it took 3 days for them to do the installation at our house, again, because of that really long run that they had to do for the pipes from one end of our house to the other. But for other people that have a simpler installation, I've seen it done in basically less than 2 days. Usually it covers 2 days, but it's maybe an afternoon and a morning sort of a scenario, making sure that everything has time to dry. So why not solar, and what happens if there is an earthquake? Fantastic questions. I'm glad you asked. So I really looked into solar because for us, our primary emergency situation that I always look at first is the Cascadia earthquake. And if the earthquake happens, all of the underground utilities likely will be severed, including the natural gas lines. So for things like hurricanes and tornadoes and snowstorms and things like that, where the overhead transmission lines are going to go down, our natural gas generator will supply perfectly fine. For an earthquake where it breaks the utility lines that are underground, we're going to have a real issue, and that generator is not going to work. So in that case, solar would have been a fantastic idea. Granted, in an earthquake, solar panels on the roof, depending on how stable your house is, may or may not be functional. But in general, okay, if the natural gas line goes out, the solar panels would still work. Unfortunately, the price of solar in order to replicate the power generation is significantly more expensive. When we looked at installing a comparable amount of generation and storage at our house from a solar perspective, it was going to be more than $20,000 to get all of the panels, and then it was going to be another $20,000 plus to get the batteries. Now, hopefully over the next few years, the price of panels will come down, the price of batteries will come down, and we might add a solar system, some size solar system to our house in the future. In the meantime, I went out and I got a couple of smaller solar panels and some Goal Zero batteries that we already had. And that will allow us, if, for example, we do hit a Cascadia earthquake and we can't use the generator, we would have some method of generating some amount of power. Likely we wouldn't be able to charge, keep the refrigerators and the freezers going. Perhaps we might need more panels or something that we could add down the road. But we would at least probably be able to charge some phones and laptops and things to kind of keep things moving. Have some lights, have some fans, things to kind of keep everybody comfortable for the next couple of days until we were able to evacuate out. So that's the story on our Generac whole home generator. It's been a wonderful addition. We have had it kick on a couple of times over the last, I think we got it last December, so it's kicked on over the last 18 months a couple of times. We haven't had any major power outages in our area, but there have been some fluctuations and things, and we hear it kick on and then we hear it kick off. The transfer switch is automatic, so it cuts in and cuts out. We don't have to do anything, which is really, really nice. There is a Wi-Fi enabled component, so if you want to check on how it's working or it's functioning or you're out of town, it'll let you know if it kicks on. So that's really, really beneficial. But overall, it was a wonderful investment to our house and our safety and our preparedness going forward. And I would highly encourage you, if you can afford it, and granted, this is a spendy little device, but if you can swing it, I think it's a great addition. And I think in the future, we're gonna have more and more and more power interruptions that are gonna come over time, just with aging grids, with increased demand, with lack of supply. There's going to be a lot of things that are going to kind of continue to degrade over the next few years. And so having a generator of your own that you can run when you need it for a day or 2 days or 10 minutes is going to make life really, really wonderful for you. So something to think about. If you can find it, if you can swing it, if you can afford it, definitely look into it. If you have additional questions, go ahead and leave them down below. This is something that I've gotten a lot of friends have been interested and curious in, so I wanted to make a video for everybody to see. But I know that everybody's going to have more questions. So if you have more questions, go ahead, leave them down below. We could do a follow-up video, or we can get into individual pieces of the generator, the installation, or whatever you want to know, solar, all of that sort of stuff going forward. But thanks again. Let me know what you think. Go ahead and don't forget to hit the like button and the subscribe button if that's something that you're interested in. And we'll see you guys in the next video. Thanks a lot. Bye.